For me as a child, what I most remember about the Seder was going to New Jersey where my grandparents lived, and they were part of a large, vibrant Jewish community, and lots of people came for Seder, but I just remember it being long and boring, and I just didn't always know what was going on. But there was clearly a sense for the adults present, or there was something I picked up somewhere from them, that this was very much, this was late 60s or mid to late 60s and into the early 70s, that they were still feeling a tremendous sense of fragility in that post-Holocaust era. And so the important thing for the Seder, as it was impressed upon me, was that this was about connecting to our past. This was a touch point to those who were gone and those who had come before us, and that it was their responsibility to bring this to life because of what we had been through.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience too. Growing up as a child in the 80s and 90s, I still felt like the specter of the Holocaust loomed largely. My parents are the people I remember most about the Seder because they are the center of gravity in my family's life and in the broader community's life. And the Seder was a time in which they invited everyone, Jewish, not Jewish, to come participate in the story of liberation. It was a time that we remind ourselves that we're not in the position that we were in the past, but at the same time we remind ourselves that we're not fully free because not everybody's in our position. But it was a time that I remember feeling most at home because it was a ritual that is so important to my parents, and one that really defined my childhood.
Yeah, and then as adults, it really changes for us, right? Like I know for myself, as my grandparents were gone and we stopped going for that, things changed a lot in terms of where the role the Seder played in my life and the role that Judaism played in my life. And as a late teen and into my 20s, I wasn't really finding much meaning or purpose for me in religion. Although I still might go to a Seder here and there, it wasn't until I really maybe got into my 30s and had children and wanted the Jewish rituals to be meaningful for them that I started to really think about the Seder in a different way and started to really see the important social justice messages that are there. And by that time, I had a career that was social justice oriented, as did my husband, and these were values that were important to us. And it was just wonderful for me to realize that the things that were most meaningful to me were also right there in the center of my religion, in the center of this important ritual, that I could bring everything together.
Yeah, the ritual it grounded me in every place that I lived because I left for college at 18 and never came home. And so the Seder really marked for me passing of time away from family because I was always in a new place and always moving around in new communities and orienting to the needs of new communities. And it was a ritual that was always meaningful for me, but I was always having to translate my ideals into new languages. And it wasn't until COVID that I felt a sense of home because I got to have a Seder with my wife and 2 children in which we formed our own new rituals and our own customs through our own Haggadah. And it was the first time in 30 years that I felt like I was finally there. I had reached the promised land of home. And it was keeping to this ritual that kept me connected.